Well. They came, they bickered, and they're likely in the exact same spot they were before last night. But after a 13-hour day, we are back in Waukesha doing a live show. Yesterday's debate, broadcasting all day from downtown, was very fun. It was cool to do that. It was cool to be on site. As much as I would have liked to see more of the things that were happening around the Deer District, we were pretty much trying to stay in the mediocre air conditioning that White had tail. I think that was the thing we were talking about, is like everyone's air conditioning yesterday was just on life support because it was so hot. And by the end of the day, we were all just drenched. But we got through it. And the 8 candidates also got through it. Although I would say my biggest takeaway from all of it is, did it move the needle at all for anybody? You tell me. 844-967-2789. That's 844-96-PARTY. And Greg Bach is on the board.
Hello.
How are you, friend?
I'm doing good. I'm doing peachy keen.
Any thoughts?
Fun show yesterday.
Very fun show yesterday. Any thoughts on any initial reactions to debate, either to yesterday's event or to the actual debate?
So, full disclosure, I have another job and I was working, so I wasn't able to watch it. I was trying to follow it. And honestly, the only person who Chris Christie didn't surprise me in his pomposity and his bombastitude. And Nikki Haley, I felt, was strong from the things I read. Do I agree with her?
She was more like the Nikki Haley that got elected to governor.
Yeah.
Than who she's been for the last, 8 years.
And I'm sure her handlers and her campaign manager are saying, be the smooth, straight ahead candidate, just cut through the noise. And I think that's what she was trying to do last night. Not so much for Ron DeSantis.
Not so much for Ron DeSantis.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Did you see the moment where he like tried to end with a smile?
Oh, it was like he's being controlled from backstage and someone forgot to hit the smile button immediately. Like he said something and someone's like, why isn't he smiling? Oh, sorry, on it, click.
Well, would love to hear your thoughts if you watched or any of the highlights that you saw that stood out to you. Did anything surprise you? 844-967-2789. But indeed, former President Trump, who did not show up, I would say won the debate last night. Because it's safe to say that none of them established themselves as any kind of credible threat, I think.
No.
And so the 8 of them who weren't Donald Trump tried to make their case. And I don't know if we see no numbers of how many people tuned in to the debate last night compared to, what the rivalry was with the Tucker Carlson interview. But, I think the biggest thing, the most important thing that we should be talking about is the fact that Trump, they literally could not avoid Trump because at one point, the moderators asked for a show of hands on who would support Trump as the GOP nominee if he were convicted in one of his many criminal cases. And 6 of the 8 candidates raised their hands. Christie did like a weird thing, and they're like, are you doing your like half hand raise thing? And he was trying to get the attention of the moderators. And he said, someone has to stop normalizing this conduct. I agree with that. Whether or not you believe the criminal charges are right or wrong, the conduct is beneath the office of the President of the United States. And then Ramaswamy, who I would say got the most attention last night, both negative, and he just wouldn't shut up. And he's, as someone who spent a fair amount of time in Silicon Valley with tech bros, God, does he fit the mold? Jeez. He countered trying to say that Trump was the best president of the 21st century and accused Christie of running a campaign of being based on vengeance and grievance. But I think that is the most important thing to take away, that like, even if he was convicted, 6 of the 8 people on that stage would still support him. And so, all right, well, let's go to the phones. I have some more takeaways. The takeaways slash the moments I thought were the most interesting. So we will get to those. But we want to take your calls first. You can always text or call 844-967-2789. Or if you are on the app, being the Civic Media app, which you can download in any of your app stores, you can always just text or email or call right from the app. So going to the phones, we got Terry from Green Bay. Terry, did anything surprise you last night?
I surprised myself for watching 2 hours of
Oh,
that.
it kept your
That's the
attention
thing.
for 2 hours.
I did. I tend to vote, Democratic pretty much all the time. But, I think you hit the marks on a lot of your comments earlier. Vivek Swamy definitely took the cake here. If Trump wasn't running, he would definitely be that placeholder for Trump.
Oh, you
But,
think more so than anyone else?
I think so. I think he definitely stood out. I mean, if he wanted to make a show, definitely a lot of the stuff that he said was controversial, of course.
Yeah.
But even though people don't agree with him, he's going to get a lot of headlines. And for people that are just kind of watching this at a peripheral level, just, standing back, he's going to get a lot of attention. I thought Mike Pence actually did quite well for being as soft-spoken as him. The two of them, Vivek and Mike there, both had the top talk time for the entire debate. So I thought he did not too bad, but like you said, he's still milk toast when it comes to most stuff. But I think the winner of that, though, was Vivek, I think, last night. So,
do you say Vivek just because he kind of came away with the most name recognition as far as people talking, like being the story today?
oh yeah, just like I said, because he was very bombastic. He injected himself. He became the attack of the people instead of Trump or anything else, the actual leading candidate. But he put himself into positions and attacked people, and they attacked him. And bad press is good press, no matter how you look at it. And that's how Trump won the nomination before, because he's very bombastic. He says outlandish stuff. And that's what Vivek did. He said a lot of outlandish stuff and took controversial positions. People may not agree with him, but he'll get the attention, and that's what stays in people's minds.
And he also, I don't know if you saw this, got the a tip of the hat from the one and only Elon Musk, who tweeted, "Vivek is increasingly compelling." So take that, whether that means it's a ringing endorsement or something like that's a reason to stay away. It happened. So thanks so much for the call, Terry. Next, we're going to Ben in Oshkosh. Ben, are you
Hello?
there?
Yeah.
Hi. What'd you think of last night? Anything surprise you?
I was surprised that Nikki Haley wasn't vying for the vice president spot. She was a lot more fiery than I thought she would be. Ramaswamy kind of seemed like the only person, says he wants to be president, but with how much he defended Trump was more make me vice president. We had a couple friends did a debate bingo at my place, and
What was on your debate bingo card?
One was, Nikki Haley reminding everyone that she's a woman, woke military, Bud Light, stuff like that.
All right.
And DeSantis, came across as a robot, said everything that he wanted to say, but I don't think he came across looking good. Fox News undercut Chris Christie with the UFO question. And then the two governors on the end were just nothing burgers.
Total nothing burgers. I mean, the only one line I think came out of Doug Burgum's mouth that was like funny or memorable was like, they told me to break a leg and then I did, since he tore his Achilles tendon earlier in the day. And I was like, all right, Doug's got jokes. But yeah, I don't think in everything I reread today, I'm not sure either of their names was even mentioned besides Asa Hutchinson being one of the two people saying he would not support Donald Trump if he were to be convicted. But I think you're right. I was the most surprised by Haley and her more sane answers as far as, the fact that she even called out Republicans. She's like, who are the big spenders? Like that was a truth bomb. And, I thought that was pretty impressive.
And I loved how I was in the Navy, so I really loved how Nikki Haley and Chris Christie tag team Ramaswamy on his lack of foreign policy knowledge.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. Washington Post did a little round circle of arrows pointing in which direction the attacks came, and most of them were towards Ramaswamy, which I thought was interesting because I think a lot of people thought that it was going to be a DeSantis dump. And truly, it was really, there was like one thing that Nikki Haley said against DeSantis, but he was kind of left alone to just dig his own grave.
Yeah, I think he lacks the charisma enough that he can dig his own grave.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thanks so much for the call, Ben. We got about a minute and a half before the break. CJ, what did you think of last night's debate?
Thank you for taking my call, Kristen. Jane usually won't.
Well,
It was spectacular.
what did you enjoy about it?
Well, I believe any one of those candidates would be better than our present president.
Okay.
Certainly, I would say Nikki Haley, who I've supported from the beginning, did a fabulous job. I think she's right until the Republicans come up with a consensus on abortion. They're going to struggle no matter who they pick. And I think Tim Scott would be an absolutely spectacular vice president. And this is going to be interesting because the Democrats believe in democracy so much that they won't let Joe Biden debate.
You know what, CJ? That's one thing that you and I actually agree on. I don't think it's good that Biden's not debating as we have other candidates. So that's maybe a first for us, friend, as far as things we actually agree on. We do have to let you go because we're coming up against the next break. But if you have thoughts on last night's debate, we would love to hear from you. 844-967-2789. Did anything surprise you? 844-96-PARK.
Means a red pickup, a rural noun, simple adjective. No shoes, no shirt, no shoes, you didn't hear that. Sort of a mental typo. I walk and talk like a field hand, but the boots I'm wearing cost $3,000.
Well, welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. Greg Bach is on the board. And we were talking about last night's debate debrief, debate decompression. 844-967-2789. Would love to hear your thoughts if you watched, or even if you just kind of saw clips. What surprised you? What delighted you? Or what was, your biggest takeaway? 844-96-PARTY. Just a quick reminder, at 11:20 today, we're going to give away Brewers tickets. It's been a minute since we did that, but the Brewers are hosting the San Diego Padres this weekend. So we have tickets for Sunday's game, which is at 1:10 p.m. So if you're interested in winning those, make sure you're tuned in at 11:20 when we give the prompt for that. But coming back to some of the texts that we have gotten so far. This is on the YouTube live stream, which you're always welcome to watch on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Follow us there at As Goes Wisconsin, especially on YouTube. If you ever miss some of the, we cut things up for the interviews and stuff like that. There's a lot more there than just the live stream. But Tony says, I think Vivek got too much attention to be Trump's VP. Trump likes to get all the attention, and Vivek would steal some of his thunder. That is very interesting because you think about who he chose as his first VP, being Mike Pence, and despite having the nickname Bubbles, we now know, certainly is not a stealer of the limelight.
I mean, there was no way Trump would pick Vivek. None.
That is, I hadn't even thought about that.
No.
But yeah, it's too much competition for the who's going to say the most outrageous thing. And especially if he's younger and made more money on his own, I wonder how much that is potentially a threat for him. And Joe McClear, this is a good point. Says, for the record, no incumbent president has participated in a primary debate since Gerald Ford, who was never elected to office. So it kind of makes sense. My follow-up, as you probably know more history than I do, is how many times has there been challengers to an incumbent president? So, Joe, if you can answer that because I can't look it up while we're on air right now. But that'd be interesting to know as well. But I do think the Vivek thing is interesting. He got up there and said, I want to deliver a Reagan 1980 revolution. And, I don't know. He's like very Andrew Yang-esque, like the vibe that is going around him. And he had a big downtown, he had a big, van, not van, but
A
like
digital
tour, like a
truck.
tour bus. And that was who were you still there when Greg, were you still downtown when the 1776 costume parade happened?
Oh no, I wasn't. Did any of them die from the heat?
No, none of them died from the heat. So basically we were on air and we just saw kind of like a march down 3rd Street of a bunch of people in Revolutionary War type costumes, and we were on air, so I couldn't figure out who it was. And I found out this morning that it was something for Vivek, and they were all like holding like the truth signs or something. So I have to get more information on what that was. But
His truck was amazing. It was just full of I think Anya, one of our producers, said, "What is his problem with no adjectives?" It's just like now. This is what I think. It's just so funny the things that truck said.
Yeah. And so, but I would say so he definitely got more. I think what people thought was going to be targeted towards DeSantis was certainly more towards Ramaswamy. Some of the hits on him, Nikki Haley said, "You have no foreign policy experience, and it shows." It shows. Former Vice President Mike Pence called him a rookie and said the country can't take on the job training. And I think we got the clip from what Chris Christie said to him, was a pretty good zinger.
Tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here?" was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
Come over, give me a hug. Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
The same type of amateur.
Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
The claws came out.
Yeah. And so, and he just, but whether you say to his credit or this is just his ego, but he shrugged it all off with a big smile, saying it is not morning in America. We live in a dark moment, and we have to confront the fact that we're in an internal sort of cold cultural civil war. But I will say of on Twitter, the funniest tweet I saw was from Charlotte Clymer, who is a writer, comedian. She said, "Ramaswamy kind of looks like a youth pastor who just did a bump backstage before his sermon." All right. Well, I still have some more thoughts on this. We all are going to get to the good, the bad, and the and you thought our leaders were criminals of the headlines. But I know we have a couple people on the line. I don't think we have to. How much time do we have?
We have about a minute. So
all right. Well, you can hold on. We'll take your call after the break. 844-967-2789. If you have thoughts that you would like to debrief on last night's debate. 844-96-PARTY. Call, text, or leave a comment on the live stream. But we are going to take another break. This is As Goes Wisconsin. We'll be right back. Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. Greg Bach is on the board, and we are wrapping up our debate debrief from last night. We had one text from John from Menominee Falls. Good morning, everyone. 6 of the 8 people on stage showed that they are either cowards or traitors to the Constitution of this country. The thing that stood out to me the most was that Vivek Ramaswamy clearly has the potential to do the most damage to this country and this planet. He is an autocrat in the making and a clueless idiot when it comes to foreign policy. If he gets elected, things will be worse than they were even under Trump. Thank you for the text, John. All right, let's go to the phones. Karina, you've been waiting very patiently. Karina, what did surprised you last night about the debate?
Okay, they were trying to protect the residents, but
Karina?
at the same time, we should send it to the people of this home.
Oh.
That's on a lot of things,
Kar-
especially anymore.
Karina, are you there?
If you don't mind emailing me, that would be great.
All right. Well, let's see if we can come back to Karina. Mary from Wauwatosa. What surprised you from last night?
And thanks for your great coverage here. I'm a Democrat, so as a primary, with my primary concern about climate crisis, I'm going to be voting for President Biden. However, there was a comment by Nikki Haley that spoke to my beliefs, and I think it's going to appeal to conservative females when she quoted Margaret Thatcher. She said, "If you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman." That's pretty profound.
It is profound. And, I think it's funny because I want to like Nikki Haley. And I think she's gone through the kind of this like bootlicking period with Trump. But I think she said a lot of things last night that I saw some of my girlfriends this morning who are Democrats. But they're like, I was surprised. I surprised myself with how many things she was saying that I agreed with. And I would kind of say the same thing as far as even her, I am very pro-choice, anyone who listens to the show knows that I am. But even the kind of not spat, but the back and forth she had with Pence when she said, "I am unapologetically." Actually, do we just have the clip? But she said that we're unapologetically pro-life, but was very honest. Like, let's be honest with voters.
I am unapologetically pro-life, not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband was adopted and I had trouble having both of my children. So I'm surrounded by blessings. When it comes to a federal ban, let's be honest with the American people and say it will take 60 Senate votes. It will take a majority of the House. So in order to do that, let's find consensus.
To be honest with you, Nikki, you're my friend, but consensus is the opposite of leadership. When the Supreme Court returned this question to the American people, they didn't just send it to the states only. It's not a states only issue. It's a moral issue.
Don't make women feel like they have to decide on this issue when you know we don't have 60 Senate votes in the House.
70% of the American people support legislation
but
to ban abortion
of the
after
Senate
a baby is
does
capable
not.
of experiencing pain.
That is such a blatant lie. Where did he get that from? Is it 70% of his congregation? Like, where did he get that number from?
Let's look at those numbers. They can't focus on the family.
Because I think he's maybe has switched that around because it's something like depending on which poll you're looking at and what the cutoff is, it's like 70% of people saying they support abortion access.
When I heard him say that, I went, "What?" Also, really quick, dear Mary from Wauwatosa, I apologize. I cut you off. I hit the wrong button going between callers. I didn't mean to dump you off the line, but thank you for the call. That's my fault.
Got it. I was wondering what happened.
That was my fault. That's my bad.
But I will say, to be fair, when I think in one hand, as far as doing it in a how things are usually done when it would come to a federal abortion ban, Nikki Haley is totally right as far as they wouldn't have the votes. But what she was not totally right is that a Republican president could achieve a federal abortion ban by like just nuking the Senate filibuster or invoking the Comstock Act.
And you know that as soon as they walked through the door, that's exactly what they'd expect them to do with all that pressure.
Well, I think it depends on the person. Like, I feel like Pence would do that, right? And so as far as like who's a true believer when it comes to this issue versus who knows that they have to toe the line because of the Republican Party's allegiance to the anti-abortion cause. But I did think that exchange was interesting. And I think Nikki Haley in general had a strong performance. I don't know what that means for her in like polls. I don't know if that means that she's still trying to get a cabinet position, but it was a better version of, at least for me and my taste, a more palatable version of Nikki Haley than certainly a lot of them. But we have Luann Bird on the line. No, we have Karina. Is Karina on the line? All right, Karina, let's go back to Karina. Karina, what'd you think of last night?
Hi. Yes.
Well, first of all, honestly, I'm so sick and tired of talking, I'm hearing man talking about what I should and should not do. I'm at the point that I want to have a movement to have a best contraception is vasectomy, something like this, and be done with it. Because if you're talking about my body, what am I going to do? Then I can talk about your body, what I'm going to do as well to protect myself from that craziness you're pushing on me. One and two, honestly, I kind of it was sad because I was thinking that it's their private debate. They are in their own midst. They are with their party, and I thought that it would be more of a united feeling to the party to see what is really Republican Party is all about. And I haven't seen people more hated each other. Truly, it's not an even competition. I am your friend, but it's not a leadership. It is a leadership. You do make a pact with your enemy or somebody who doesn't agree with you. You don't need to make a pact or go for peace with your friends. You're already there.
That's the funny thing about this whole process.
You need to be right. That's why you need to be in the leader position, that you are capable of seeing different ways of solving the problem, not just a yay or nay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for the
How divided they are. That's the thing, Chris. This is how divided they are. It's none of them should be at the ruling of the country, because they cannot even lead their own party.
Yep. Thanks for the call. Yeah.
That's my feeling.
Thank
you.
Thanks for the call, Karina. Let's go take Luann Bird. Luann, what did you hear last night?
Hi there. Good morning. I thought, well, it's always interesting. I wondered, though, if you had covered the debate moderators at all, and I might have missed it if you talked about that in the beginning.
We didn't actually.
No, we did not.
There was a lot to talk about. What did you think of the moderators?
There is a lot to. Well, they seem to lose control so quickly.
Yeah.
And that, I've been a moderator for the League of Women Voters over the years, and the league had strict rules on how to do forums. And back in the day, the league did the presidential debates. And apparently there's a letter out there where the league pulled out because they said this is a sham and this is not fair to the American people. So in terms of moderating, we can do better, don't you think?
And it's interesting to think of what their directives were, right? As far as, because we've seen some people to be able to really take control. And if they were, if they going into it, it was kind of like, well, let the entertainment ride.
That's what I felt happened last night. The entertainment road.
Yeah.
And you didn't really get a sense. You couldn't really dig into what does each person. And then it took so long to get to a couple of them. That's just not fair. That's not a debate that serves the American people, so we can figure out, what these candidates are even about. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents there and say we can do better when it comes to moderating, particularly presidential debates.
Yeah. Well, Luann, let me ask you this. What do you, are you a fan? Like, should debates have audiences?
No.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Let me clarify that. Absolutely. They should have audiences.
They should have audiences.
They absolutely should have them. What I was thinking is that the audience shouldn't control the debate, though. And we used to ask for the audience to remain silent till the end so we could use every moment of time for getting the views of the candidates. And that would serve a better purpose. So,
because I've thought about this.
I'm a fan of audiences, but under control audiences.
Yeah. And so thanks for the call, Leanne, because I thought about that a lot because, there was a fair amount of talk about, like, it's not it wasn't like open to the general public and you had to get a ticket and, which groups were in there and who was cheering for what and who was booing for what. And I thought about this even last year in the primary debate for the Democratic senatorial primary last year in Wisconsin when it was Mandela and Sarah Godlewski and the I think there was 5 in total, and I got to go see it live, and it was kind of dependent on like who brought the biggest crowd, because it wasn't obviously the same kind of ticket as going to a presidential primary debate, but I don't know. It's just there's a part of me also that like does that by letting people like hoot and holler and boo change the dynamics of the debate for better or for worse. I certainly think it makes it more entertaining because like we were talking about yesterday, like when you're playing to a crowd, there's incentive to have a one-liner or have a good comeback and versus a crowd that's in control.
Well, that
So
that's what turns it from it's not a debate. It's like a wrestling match in suits, you know.
yeah.
I mean, it's not very it's we all know what we're going to get in especially in these primary debates. So I don't know at the end of the day why we're like one, why are we disappointed when we don't get what we want? Because it's never gonna happen. And also, yeah, it's just it's fodder. It's ratings. It's you know, we sit here and go like, well, they're not answering questions. Of course they're not answering questions. This is they're just getting their face out there. I mean, people are like, Asa Hutching who?
Mm-hmm.
Hutchinson? Who? See you there? Hutchinson. We got a bunch of texts
All
coming
right,
through.
let's hear some of them.
By the way, if you would like to get a hold of us, you do that by oh, I've dropped the number here. What's the number?
844-967-2789.
There we are. 844-967-2789. From the 414, pro-life is a lie. Call it forced birth. That's very just to the point. From the 608, consensus is the opposite of leadership. Pence? Really? What a dumb statement, especially if you're running to be in charge of a democracy. That's autocracy.
I know. That's what I thought when he said that. And as far as like, isn't that what what?
Yeah.
You just want to come in and be like, what leadership is what I say goes.
Yeah. It's absolutely, yeah. No, 70% might took us. And then 608 out of Middleton, Pence is not charismatic or likable enough to be an autocrat. Literally every side of the political spectrum can't stand this guy.
I know. I was reading some of the reactions. I think Wisconsin Examiner had a reporter at a Republican watch party last night, and they were just kind of getting reactions from people who were there watching. And basically, it didn't move the needle for anyone. Like there was people like Ramaswamy did well, or a couple thoughts. But there was one guy who gave a quote by saying like, "It will be a cold day in hell if I ever vote for Chris Christie or Mike Pence."
Wow.
And like, Pence is trying to walk this line, and it's like, you're not fooling anybody. Like you have no chance, my friend. All right. Well, I guess maybe we'll bump the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Because we got a couple more texts too.
We got more
and,
texts. We're gonna play 3 headlines and a lie. Which have you ever played? Have I made you play this before?
You made me play it last time I was here. It was absolutely.
Are you feeling confident?
Not at all.
All right. Well, that's even better. All right. Well, if you have more texts, if you have more calls, we're not going to cut you off. 844-967-2789. We will read more of that when we come back and make Greg play 3 headlines and a lie. This is As Goes Wisconsin. But I couldn't find a way. Well, welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. Greg Buck is on the board. And let's get to some more texts. We were talking about last night's debate. I mean, I obviously I spent 13 hours there. So I got to Whitetail at 8 a.m. to start setting up. And I think I left at 9-ish. And so it dominated my day yesterday. And so I'm happy to keep talking about it. Greg Buck, do we got some more texts?
Sorry about that. We got some more text coming through. Let's see here. From the 312, we all love Luann Bird. We all do.
True.
But audiences at debates are incapable of remaining silent, no matter what the party. And I don't disagree with that myself. Even a completely ludicrous comment like, we should invade Mexico will be met with hoots and hollers of approval and cut off time for a reasonable response.
Because, and I think that was my point when what I witnessed at the Wisconsin Democratic Senate debate for the primary. Everyone who's there for their candidate is going to cheer for whatever their candidate said. And it's not like an objective audience that is there to learn about the candidate. It's like you pack the audience with people to cheer for what you're saying, if you're allowed to do that. And so I kind of, I think it's and I love you, Luann, and I say this with it's like because I am also an optimistic person. I think it is a very optimistic comment on her. Like it's like, yeah, if people can behave themselves, it's great to have people there in person.
Let's see here. Robert from Richland Center in the 608. You can't control the audience, so I believe there should not be an audience. The audience is not necessarily representative of the public and should not be allowed to influence perceptions of the responses. The media is part of the problem by promoting one-liners as opposed to thoughtful responses. Thank you, Robert from Richland Center.
Thank you, Robert. Brian on the Facebook Live said it was propaganda, advertisement, enrollment, and paid entertainment. It was not legitimate debate or public service to educate voters. Please consider calling this what it was. One had to pay Fox to view it, cable dues, or private data. That's actually, yeah.
Yep, I don't disagree with that.
Because I guess if you're not paying for Fox,
well,
if you just had basic cable, could you even watch last night?
If you have basic cable, you could watch it. Yeah, Fox is on basic cable.
Fox News. It was Fox News, which is a cable
Yep.
channel, but then they also were airing it on like the local Fox.
I don't think it was not on. I don't think it was on like your Fox Milwaukee.
So if you have basic cable, then you couldn't.
Oh, I thought that was part of basic cable. I don't know.
I'm talking about like when you just plug in your TV and you don't like it's not a cable subscription.
Yeah, you're right. Nope, that's a big nopers.
Tony Faldup said, I forgot about DeSantis saying we should basically invade Mexico to attack the cartels. That was absolutely crazy. You know what else was crazy was when DeSantis told a story about a woman he knows who survived abortion.
Oh yeah, I got that clip.
Oh, let's play that.
I know a lady in Florida named Penny. She survived multiple abortion attempts. She was left discarded in a pan. Fortunately, her grandmother saved her and brought her to a different hospital.
Yep. Governor of Florida.
Like, what? And it's like, it's so outrageous. And it's just like then he didn't speak for like 10 minutes. Like he dropped that story and it was like that. You know how sometimes do you ever end an awkward story and then no one's like getting it or laughing and then you just kind of say, and then I found $5 to like put a button on the story. That's one of those things that he kind of could have said like, oh, like she was dropped in a pan. This isn't going anywhere. I'm hearing crickets. And then I found $5. Really? No, I just needed a saving grace for that story.
my friend has a thing where if you're telling a bad story and there's a pause, she'll just go, well, here's your bag of poop. We got another one coming in earlier from the 414. Sorry, but I couldn't bring myself to watch/listen last night. But did any candidate call for the prosecution of the conspirators of January 6th? Did anyone call for ejection from Republican Party? Did anyone condemn the actions that led to January 6th? Did anyone say something like, this is not the way we behave in a democracy? Did any even directly mention Aura advocate dealing with it? Because if none did, there isn't one of them we can trust.
I don't think any of that happened.
No.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I didn't watch it that as closely. Maybe it was when I was taking one of my multiple bathroom breaks. Because again, 8 months pregnant, but did not hear any of that. All right, should we squeeze in 3 headlines and a lie?
Sure.
Because I don't know when else we're gonna do it. We got a packed show.
We got more text too. I mean, come on now.
All right, well, let's keep the text going. Maybe I'll save this for tomorrow. Then.
Okay. All right. From the 262. What surprised me about the RNC debate was how well Nikki Haley did and how entertaining RNC debates are. I was laughing the whole time. Vivek Ramaswamy proves that all you need to do is receive Republican cheers, is to talk over everyone and spew out the same nonsense that comes out of Trump. The Christie and Pence's reactions, priceless.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anything else?
The one from the 920. That's the true purpose. That's true to the purpose of the debates have changed. It's more about a show than an event or info to the public. This is why the league stopped moderating, which I think came from Luann Bird, probably.
Probably, yeah. But then, and then more than 80 million viewers followed the former president to the Twitter turned X for his 46-minute interview with Tucker Carlson. He basically used the time to praise the January 6th crowd and talk up his lead in the polls. But today, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but today, Trump plans to turn himself over to Georgia authorities and pay $200,000 in bail over the state's election interference investigation. He has not said if he'll show up to next month's debate, but I don't. Did you see some of the mugshots that
Oh,
came out of yesterday?
they were so good.
Oh my gosh. They just. I love. Was it just Jenna Ellis who was like smiling, like trying to look good for her DMV shot, as like everyone else just looks awful. I've never. If you've ever seen an argument for why overhead lighting is the worst, look at these mugshots.
I said on Twitter, I'm sorry, on X, that if you give me white privilege in one picture.
That's good. But then also get ready for if there is a mugshot for Donald Trump. Sounds like there's a lot of Etsy stores that are just waiting for merch. So we'll talk a little bit more about that next hour. But we are going to take a break for the top of the hour news. Next hour, we're going to give away Brewers tickets. J.R. Radcliffe is here to give us a sports update. Lots of stuff still to come. Stick around for As Goes Wisconsin. We'll be right back.